ground, you'll find that it is giving you fruits. But I have argued that the best thing is to remove the flowers so that the tree has time to become mature enough. So if you are from PJ Dave again,
2 consecutive years.
yeah, yes.
Okay.
So since you planted year 1 and year 2, remove the flowers. Yeah. Also, what size is your tree? Because how well has it been eating? Because if it is strong enough, you can and it can hold. Maybe by the 2nd year, you can allow a few flowers. There's another argument I had very recently. They say naturally the tree will abort what it can support anyway. So even by the 2nd year, you can allow it, yeah, because it will hold what it can. Well, again, we said, sorry for another day. But for me, I have waited by the 2nd year, and then I planted. When in this orchard, we even went to the 4th year before we started seeing any sensible flowers. Because remember, our trees were what? Babies. But in this case, you brought already year 1, then planting 2 and 3, you're in market. By the 3rd year, this 3rd year, so you're 1 full year. By this 3rd year, your tree is 3 years old. You're already in the market. Okay? So that is when now you start. So your tree is big enough. You see it is strong enough. It could also be 3 years, but it's not looking strong. So again, at that point in time, you need to give it what you call spot treatment, TLC. Unaendelea kutoa because you want it to become vegetative strong enough. You remember you have done your selection, you've been pinching, it's grown canopy, and now it's starting to flower. So when it is at budding stage, not flowered, ukiona kale ka bud kanatoka kanakanga kangumi hivi, that is the time you start talking to that tree. That tree is telling you, I am ready. And that is the time it needs a lot of feeding. When it is that, when you pass that stage and you wait to put the feeding after it has opened up, you're late. You're too late. So I will hand over to him to tell you about this, the science of why is it we start there and what is it that is needed and how often do you apply, Eric, and you will take us through that.
Thank you, Madam. So, what you have said, when you see that thing, it is called the budding stage. The budding stage. At budding stage is when now you have what we call the onset of the production period. And at that particular time, you have one critical macronutrient that you have to be very, 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 very careful about, which we call potassium. Then, also at that time is also the onset of a time when you have to be very, very, very careful of 4 micronutrients that you have to be on the lookout. One is called zinc. The second one is called boron. The third one is called iron. And the last one is calcium. Those 4, you have to be on the lookout. I've said one macronutrient is potassium. Then you have 4 micronutrients. You have zinc, you have boron, you have iron, and you have calcium. I'll talk for the purpose of potassium. Potassium, apart from other activities of ripening the fruit, blah, 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 all that, it is the only crucial macronutrient that is required in large quantities at the onset of flowering. You miss this nutrient, potassium, even before you go to the micro. And you remember the soil testing we talked about? And if I got you collected, you already have a problem with potassium. You realize if you don't intervene at this particular stage, you will have what we call massive crop budding, not now flower, budding above. Hizo tu vitu tuote utaona tutakata na tuaguke. That happens not because of the micro, because of potassium. So for you to survive, you have to build up your potassium levels when you are just about to get to that particular stage, and you have to keep on monitoring. Now, am I clear with potassium? When bolon, I've talked about bolon, that detachment of the carbad from the tree is because of huyu mnyama tunaita boron. So you have balanced the potassium. So mti imejishikilia, ako carbad kamejishikilia at least for a month. Within 1 month, this bud should open up. When it open up now, at that process of opening up, the science again now changes. You had adequate potassium. Now, the other switch I've said, zinc, boron, and iron becomes paramount and pillars. You miss one of them, and especially boron. Now the detachment again, you get now all these flowers. You see the flowers, if you see them, this has called a lot of effort to come in now with those foliage place for you to see these flowers. Zikuwa zimejishikilia kwa mti aina hiyo. So you miss those applications, and most of them are through foliar feeding. Then again, you realize hii maua yote itafanya nini? Itamwagika. I've seen online farmers crying, nini iko shida gani hapa? Maua yangu yote imemwagika because of that trick. It is very critical from especially this area. You started from late mwezi wa 8, mwezi wa 9, mwezi wa 10. That is when you maximize those applications. Then you are able to survive. So potassium, ile madam alisema hivi, very critical. If your soils are adequate, then you are not susceptible. At the onset, flower burst, you kufunguka, inaitwa flower burst. Then coming with the foliars, especially for boron, boron, zinc, and iron. Hizo ni za kushikilia hiyo maua kwa mti. Now, that process takes about 2 months. At this time, when we are getting to now, November, if you look at majority of our trees, kuna small fruit. Iko na hii matunda kidogo. These micronutrients are still important, but now huyu mnyama anaitwa calcium. Calcium ni wa kutengeneza gozi na mifupa. Correct? So huyu mtu ametoka kwa ile kabad, amekuja kwa flower, sasa anaingia kutengeneza mifupa. Calcium becomes now immediately very necessary. Ikiwa hivi, mnaona hii matunda hii tudogo, you cannot survive without this calcium. You do that again, mifupa, unajua hata mtoto anakuwa na malnutrition. Anakosa hiyo, alafu nini what happens? You have abnormal fruit drop. Not actually formation, drop. If the calcium levels are extreme. If they are not adequate, you have now what we call abnormal fruit formation. Unapata tunda iko lakini tudogo. Correct? One thing that we have to take place at this time, calcium, unlike these other nutrients, mnakumbuka kitu nilisema inakuanga nini? Lazy good. Kwa mmea unaweza kuwa iko lakini mmea itumii. Nyie wote mnajua nyanya. Nyanya kuna kidoda inakuanga nayo. Inaitwa blossom head rot. Watu wengi wanachidagwa hiyo ni nini? Lakini hiyo kitu na si nyanya peke yake, matunda yote. Unapata kuna mahali ina blacken. Why ina blacken? Because of this problem of calcium. Calcium might be available. It's lazily moving inside the crop. So by the time ifike kwa tunda imechelewa. That is why unapata nyanya inakuwa na hiyo shida ya kufanya nini? Hiyo kidoda inaitwa blossom head rot, alafu sasa huwezi uza. Si ni kweli? Same case will apply to the avocado. So what you do is now you supplement with a lot of high foliars which are rich in calcium. Tuko pamoja? So when you do that, and you are past now this particular stage of this small formation, this is between the month hapa kwetu sana sana central between the month of November and December, then you are out of the, I would say, quote unquote, you are out of that particular day. That particular day. Correct?
So a quick one.
Yes.
I noticed there are many trees here with different stages. So by that illustration from the flowering, the budding, the flowering, and the fruiting, could you show with an illustration with the trees that are around here? Because
Yeah,
I'm saying,
we can. We can do that demonstration, no
Yeah.
problem.
that would
Yes.
be perfect.
Yes.
Okay.
So-
And then I want to highlight something very important about how our orchards look like and how Kakuzi would look like, and how when you go to international markets, how the orchards look like. We'll go to the orchards that we've set up from Spain down there, and what they've done, it's the right time to introduce this. They grow one Zion. What do I mean by that? They, you know, like tissue culture banana. So they'll pick the most productive tree and multiply Zions from that productive tree. So they have the same homogeneity in a lot of things. They flower the same way, they have the same fruit sizes, they have the same, vibrance in terms of growth. Everything is the same, because when you get one tree, 3,000 of them is bitter. That is what they multiply. What happens here is that you'll see one branch is flowered, has got teenagers, another one is still, like you can see that one, for example, this tree has got old ones, another branch. On one tree, in fact, it is very confusing. Because one side iko na flower. This is a good example. Hii side iko na flowers. Kule katikati kuko na teenagers. Wengine ni wamama. So you really don't know what to apply. But what do? Use the rule of the thumb and decide. Majority of them are the boron stage. So let's just apply boron anyway. It won't kill them. But it is wasteful because it's not precise. In the other orchard, when they are flowering, and when you go to Kakuzi, they flower at the same time. Anybody who has done that type of technology, nobody is doing it in Kenya yet. Anybody who is getting seedlings from those nurseries that do what you call the clonal seedlings, where it means that uyu na uyu ni the same, ni the same person. They get uniformity. In fact, what convinced me is that I visited one of the farms in Tanzania from Westphalia, and I was shocked that all the fruits were actually ranging the same sizes. Huku kwangu utakuta hii mti iko na matunda kama 20 ni size zile kubwa. Hizi zingine ni tudogo. You have different sizes, but those trees were producing, everything was the big sizes because they were designed that way. Is it GMO? It is not. It's technology. Where they are doing clonal, they multiply graces, many graces. That's already happening in livestock, yeah? In livestock, ukitaka mbegu inakaa hivi. They already have known how to do that. It's happening also in the plant. In Kenya, we are a bit behind because remember, avocados is less than 20 years old. It's not like tea and coffee where a lot of research has been done. But when you go to countries like Spain and Israel, they have specialized and done a lot of research. And they're going to tell you this seedling is best when it is salty water. This seedling is best in Eldoret, where it's high altitude. This seedling is best in Muranga, when it's lower altitude. All that science is there. So yeah, that's the application now. It's wasteful, but you have to apply it. We know generally we start budding at around September. So in September, whether or not you're happening, we'll still give all of you boron. Yeah? Then we'll come in with zinc. Then you still see this one is still flowering. We don't withdraw totally. We continue those ones, but again, we now introduce calcium for the other branches that are having calcium. I think Solomon forgot to mention that there's a very important stage where when we're fattening the fruits, where we introduce the K again. When we're fattening, at the last stages, we introduce a very high concentration of K. In fact, what we use is 45% K alone, which again is used as fertilizer. And now, when you talked about calcium being lazy, why is it that now people are using calcium, not just the CAN? Use CAN and use foliar. because calcium does not like moving. Calcium and iron, they don't like moving, so they're very lazy. So to fast track that process, you spray foliar and you do the one. Then you're sure that top down is getting. Yeah? And that's the reason you see in nyanya za kwanza zinakuanga kubwa, za pili kubwa, the third one they go reducing as it's because calcium is not moving up. It's not anything else. It's calcium that's not moving up. So the smaller ones get weaker and weaker. But if you start applying the calcium also on the top, then you continue having uniformity as the trees grow. Yeah. So this is what you do to this tree now. That is our focus right now. Remember, just to take you back a bit, the moment in September when you had the last crop, sisi tulichelewa. Climate has changed a lot. It's affecting our planning so much to the point that we harvested our last crop last month. Is it last month? Last week. Last week. It's never happened. We always used to harvest our last crop around June, July. So that August and September is the time we are pruning. Yeah. After every cycle, you must prune. When you prune, is the time now you start putting the manure and the fertilizers and the soil test. You take your leaf analysis and it tells you, huyu mama amepata watoto, she's just come from maternity and delivered a lot of children. The same way unaendanga unapikiwa supu, unapikiwa mkimo na njahe, is the same thing that this tree will need. If you don't do that, then what means is that the next time it is conceiving, which is only 3 months, it will not give you the number of fruits or the quality of fruit that you're looking for. You have to do the pruning and you have to regenerate the roots, because the roots are the ones that were eating and they were too active eating for this mama mjamzito. So they die. When they die, you have to put something to regenerate the roots, ndio ziamuke zianze kukula tena, jaji prepare tena kushipata watoto wengine. So that is a must. So that September, we missed it. In the other farm, you'll see we did a bit of it, but we missed it, and now we're already in the other season in this one because of the climate change. So that's the first step. You do that, then you start the applications of boron. So we're usually very busy doing the pruning and doing the fertilizers, doing the leaf analysis so that it informs us what is in the soil, what is not in the soil. So that is the cycle.
What will happen